Hey everybody, welcome back to Kratom Kingdom. This is your host Chris Irving from Knoxville, Tennessee, and today is Wednesday the 19th. And sorry it's been a while, but I've had a rough couple of weeks. If it hadn't been for Kratom though, I would really be off the rails right now, but because I have Kratom, I've been off of one of my medications for about a week because my doctor didn't refill the prescription in time. So when I ran out, calling frantic to my doctor, who's actually not a doctor but a nurse practitioner, and because my doctor is too busy to see me anymore, so he hires a nurse practitioner who takes over for him, so I don't get to see who I'm paying for. And it really kind of annoys me because in my experience so far, I've not had a lot of great experiences with nurse practitioners because they are so busy and probably underpaid, but they forget to refill my prescriptions, or they wait till the very last minute, and then I'm going crazy. I'm already on I need the medication so I don't go crazy, and I'm going crazy and I'm irritating them because I'm calling my pharmacy, calling my insurance company. It's just been a mess. So Wednesday the 25th, I actually get a prescription only because I made an appointment on Monday the 23rd with my nurse practitioner again to force him to put in the prescription while I'm sitting there looking over his shoulder. I mean, when you go to a psychiatrist, you should really not have to look over your psychiatrist's shoulder to make sure they refill your necessary prescriptions, because you can't see craziness, but it's there. You can see it in my eyes. And Kratom has the only thing that's kept me sane from going crazy or insane. It's the only reason I can wake up in the morning, because I used to wake up and drink coffee, but now coffee just irritates my anxiety situation, which is being agitated because winter's coming up soon and I hate being cold. I'm a Floridian and love the Florida sun. Since I was 16 years old, going to the beach before school in the mornings and watching the dolphins surf the waves with the other surfers. That was my life. I love the warmth. I feel safe in the warmth. In the cold, I feel scared because there's nothing I want less than to be homeless, which is a possibility, living in my car in the wintertime with no heat by myself and no money and no family. My family's all gone, and my wife divorced me, and my last friend is actually passing away. He's in hospice now with leukemia, so he won't be long. I hope for his sake that it's peaceful, and he is in hospice, which makes me feel better, because my last best friend, I watched him go through the whole hospice experience because he was dying at the age of 25 of cystic fibrosis when I was 25. And that was a long time ago, like 95. So, yeah, I'm old. But all my good friends that were my age, in their 50s, or would be in their 50s, are now dead. All of them. And I actually died when I was 33 of a stroke. And unfortunately they brought me back and saved my life, which I'm debating. Some people say it was a miracle, and I say, you're not living in this body with this fucked up brain anymore. All the time, every day, 24/7, alone. And I'm alone because of the damage in my brain, because I've made some really bad choices because of my mental condition since the stroke. Strokes are real, and mental illness is real, which is why I spent 90% of my education studying the brain and psychology and trying to find healthier alternatives to the prescription medications that they prescribe for a lot of this stuff. Like benzodiazepines are what they prescribe for my stroke, not only because to calm me down, but because it also helps with my seizures that I have because of the brain damage. And so because it's a controlled substance and because people abused it so much, it's very hard and because it's controlled, my nurse practitioner has to make sure that my MD gets the signature on it, which if the MD is not there because he's got a nurse practitioner doing his practice for him, it might be hard to get that signature. and they don't actually have an efficient setup where it goes, okay, you need this every month and blah 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 blah. So anyway, kratom. The last thing I researched on it is kratom. Why is kratom dangerous? And the biggest thing I heard was because of it's in the same family as coffee. The active ingredient in kratom called mitragynine, which is called an alkaloid, which is what directly binds to your brain, which in coffee, the main alkaloid is called caffeine, which we all know like caffeine, nicotine, and they're all stimulants and they bring you up. Well, mitragynine speciosa is also supposed to bring you up. But for some people, it actually brings you down. For me, it brings me down and makes me feel a little more relaxed and comfortable in my own skin. Which is very important since my blood pressure is very high because of my anxiety, because my heart's racing all the time, because I'm nervous and my blood pressure is always fairly high, which makes me have shorter breath, and kratom really kind of keeps me leveled out that way. And I haven't really found another alternative. I don't want to take melatonin to calm me down because then I'll be tired all the time. And once you start messing with those kind of remedies, then you're playing with melatonin is something natural that your brain produces. But if you start taking it on your own, then your brain starts to adjust and saying, oh, we've already got plenty of melatonin, so we don't really need to produce it naturally on our own anymore, and then it just quits. So then you're stuck taking the synthetic form of melatonin in a bottle that most psychiatrists and sleep specialists recommend don't do. It used to be the miracle for kids on ADD medication because they had insomnia and wouldn't sleep, and they would go blah and just crazy all the time. So they'd give them melatonin, and the idea was to give them that melatonin, because melatonin is what makes you fall asleep. And usually, as a human being, since we were infants, we're regulated by the sun. When the sun's out, melatonin production decreases, and then when the sun goes down, melatonin production is supposed to kick in. But because I had a stroke and virtually was in a coma and was on life support for a month, my brain wasn't actively doing everything. Everything was happening because of morphine being pumped into my system. So my brain just kind of said, I don't need to do anything. I was asleep all the time from the opioid. And so my brain didn't need to produce melatonin anymore because I was already asleep from this other thing. And so now I take, there's really no, they say I have a sleeping disorder, but it's not an apnea. So it's just, my case is because you're messing with the brain, it's so screwed up. And there was, a lot of people think you had a stroke, you must have been doing drugs or something wrong. I was vegan, hadn't had a drug or drink of alcohol since I was 21 when I gave it up to become straight edge in this punk rock movement that there was in the 80s or 90s. Well, I joined it in the 90s. 91 is when I became straight edge, which is a movement where young kids stop drinking, doing drugs, or participating in bad stuff, non-politically correct stuff, like racism, sexism, ageism. And we try to live a really healthy lifestyle. I was exercising every day. I was a professional teacher and full-time college student, full-time teacher. And so there was really no reason for me to have a stroke. It could have been because I was overworking. My wife at the time, she expected a lot from me. And obviously when I couldn't produce anymore because I had the stroke, she had kicked me out and married somebody that made her life much easier. And that's just the kind of person. She wasn't that kind of person when I met her. She was as low class as I was. I came from a working class family, and we learned to work hard and to take care of each other. And well, at least half of my family did. My sister didn't get that memo, so she's just like my wife. I became a burden on the family, so she just kicked me out of her life and says she hates me and never wants to see me again. And I'm dependent on people to help me with certain things. Like, I've got to move pretty soon, and I'm waiting for housing, government low-income housing that I can afford, living on my meager disability salary that I earn every month. And but my bills are still the same. My phone bill is still what it is. My car insurance, my car maintenance, making sure I have an oil change, and now I need new tires and wheels. And somebody stole my car when I was living in another government low-income housing place, which, of course, when you live in low income, you're dealing with drug addicts, and this, for some reason, people with lower income don't have the same mentality as a happy middle class, upper class citizen like I used to be, when I was a teacher making an average salary and had a wife that was making also the same salary. So together we were doing well, buying houses, fixing them up, then selling them, then buying better houses, and keep carrying that, doing the adult thing, taking that, getting equity, and using that equity to upgrade the next house. And we started with the first house at like $80,000, and then ended up getting $150,000 house, which I thought was a huge deal, because it was actually like a lot nicer than an $80,000 house as you would expect. And my parents, for some reason, never got that chance. They stayed in the $80,000 house range, and the house we're in now is one of those houses, and it's not insulated well. The windows suck. The siding sucked. It was probably a Trump development or something. Sorry. Because it was all, they used cheap, just cheap stuff. And, and then my parents didn't realize what they were living in, so they just settled for it and did what they did as working class people who lived paycheck to paycheck. And then when my mom had her stroke, she could not work anymore, obviously, like I couldn't. And so her income was gone, which cut their income in half. And my dad, as he was getting older and older and older, wasn't able to do that blue-collar hard work that he had done his entire life. He became depressed and overweight and eventually died of a heart attack just a year ago, which left me completely familyless. He was the only one in my family that really honestly talked to me or understood me, I think. He's how I became the person I am today. And then when he died, it with the mental illness I was going under, I was cycling bad because I was living in an apartment by myself, and bad people started entering my life, and I thought, I can handle this. I'm Chris. I'm capable. Everybody loves Chris, and I was a tough guy, and I could handle myself on the streets if I had to, and very smart, which I'm not anymore, obviously, as you can tell. And so anyway, they say kratom is, the only danger about it is that because, like caffeine, if you have too much of it, it can bring up your blood pressure too high, and you could have a heart attack or a seizure or something. It just really depends on who you are and how your brain reacts to the alkaloid Mitragyna speciosa. Just like I can drink a cup of coffee and not feel anything and go to bed an hour later, some people drink a cup of coffee and stay up for 3 days. Everybody's different. Everybody's brain adapts to things differently, and my brain, unfortunately, is because it's damaged, is really kind of confused on how it operates. So I found kratom and I regulated it. It took me years to figure out how much is an appropriate amount for me to take without going into cardiac arrest or having seizures or when I first started drinking it, it did give me more energy like coffee does, and I would drink it and feel great, like I had a opiate or something. It does still 100% cancel my pain, which I love, because who wants to live in pain their entire life? And I never got into taking pain pills because where I live in the Appalachians, pain pills are a huge problem here. Killing people, destroying families. I watched it when I lived in the government housing. The older people there that were just popping pills and just walking zombies and selling their stuff, carless because they had to buy pills from off the street. And because of my straight edge upbringing in the culture I grew up in the 90s, being a hardcore punk rock kid, with the brain, decided I wasn't going to follow the same path as other hardcore punk rock kids and do lots of drugs and out party. I was completely the opposite. I was the most uptight, straight edge kid you could be. Very conservative, but very big hearted, because I still had my left wing parents that raised me from the 60s and taught me that love is better than hate. And now all I see in the world is hate, and it's scaring me to death. These people talking about people eating dogs, and it's just ridiculous. It's got to change. We can't survive as a nation like this. We're going to end up in this dystopian future that I'm afraid of. So this winter is going to be hell for me, because I'm getting off of those benzodiazepines once and for all, because I don't want to be controlled by a pill. I don't want that for myself. I want to be able to live without a pill. And I've gone from, before Kratom, I was taking 12 pills a day. Now, with Kratom, I'm able to get off of 6 of them. The only ones I'm really on are life-saving ones, like I take a blood thinner because my blood will clot, and I'll have a clot in my heart, my lungs, or my brain again, and I could die. And I don't want to deal with that, so I take a blood thinner, and that pill I'll take for the rest of my life. Kratom can't help blood thinning. But aspirin might be an alternative to a blood thinner, because aspirin does other damage, though. It burns holes in your stomachs because it's very acidic to your stomach lining. And I remember when I was a teen, being stupid, I had a toothache and took an entire bottle of aspirin one time, thinking that doing more was going to be better than less, and I ended up with these huge fever blisters all over my face from all the aspirin I took, and probably did some damage to my blood clotting something. That's probably the start of my blood clotting journey. Overusing things like aspirin or Tylenol or other NSAIDs or whatever. And I'm sorry, I've gone off track. So really, if you drink Kratom moderately, like you drink coffee, there's really no problem for it, and it will help your pain, and it will give you a new lease on life. Not needing to have horrible back pain all the time, and not being addicted to these horrible opiates that will ruin your life. And if you are addicted to these horrible opiates that ruin your life or control your life, Kratom is a really good way to get off of them. There's like since Kratom, they discovered Kratom and opiate withdrawal, there's been like an 80% decrease or increase in successful withdrawal from opiates with people. It's been amazing, and the pharmaceutical companies are going, shit, we might lose out, because if people aren't addicted to opiates anymore, and they're not killing each other for this pill that we can sell for whatever, so you got the pharmaceutical companies on the one side, the major corporations saying, we want to keep people in control, so let's keep them on these pills that they can only get through us, and they can charge whatever for, and control. It's population control, it's mind control. We can get on all these crazy conspiracies. Everybody else is the right and the left, so we can do it too. But not being controlled by my pain anymore is really, really great. Giving my life, a huge part of my life back, because I'm not. There are some people that live in this horrible pain by no fault of their own, work accident or something, or damage their back, their spine, and just live in this horrible physical pain that don't need to anymore, because they can drink a cup of red vein Kratom or have a gram of red vein Kratom and take that pain away. And the gram of red vein Kratom is far less damaging than any opiate on the market. Okay, y'all. Well, it's been about 20 minutes, and I don't want to keep you unnecessarily, and I promise to keep studying and researching more on Kratom, letting you know the newest news on it, where to get it. A lot of people ask me specifics, like, where do I get my Kratom? Because of costs, I use a company called Amazing Botanicals online, It's amazingbotanicals.com. You can either Google it or just type amazingbotanicals.com. I'm not sponsored by them. I wish I was, because that's my primary source for getting most of my kratom. And I found it's got it's very lab tested, like what you want, because I know I'm getting how much Mitragyna speciosa I'm getting, and I know that there's no pesticides or herbicides or anything in it that might hurt me, and I know how pure it is, or where it comes from. The strains I use come from Bali and Indonesia, which is much better sourced than someplace like a false one. I heard that they're making false kratom out of China or something, which I have no idea. I've never seen it before, and these are just rumors and conspiracies that I heard. Now that kratom is big time in the news. It's been on 60 Minutes and all over YouTube. Which reminds me, I want to thank everybody that contributed $5 to my GoFundMe account. That it seriously is paying for my medicine next week, which I would not have if it wasn't for you guys, the viewers that chipped in $5, $2, and that stuff really did help me. I am able to afford a gas to get to my doctor's appointments, to get to my pharmacy, and pay for my medication. Because my insurance company, they're good, but they're not amazing. And it's not the insurance I had when I was working and had state insurance from working for a state-run school in North Carolina, which then I had great insurance and could get medications for virtually free. Now using Medicare, and I specifically use Humana Gold Plus, which seems to work really well where I'm at, because a lot of the doctors and pharmacies recognize Humana along with my Medicare, and Humana really takes care of me. They give me extra money every month for over-the-counter things that I might need, like deodorants or razors or toothpaste, whatever. Just gotta keep your teeth pretty. And again, I'm gonna stop. I don't want to run too long, and I will see you guys in the next video, and have another kratom talk later. Peace out, everybody. Hello, Peggy, Tamara, Sluggo, Pete, everybody that comments, Lieutenant Gregory. I'm curious as to what service of the forces you're in, and you have a very strange sense of humor. Sometimes you confuse me, and I never know if you're really serious or if you're just joking. But I really appreciate all your comments. I do read them all, and I might get back. I might reply a while later, because when you've got 1,000 subscribers now, or over 1,050 subscribers now, it's humbling, but it's also difficult to maintain all those, reading every comment and replying to every single person. And then if it goes off into with sub comments and stuff, to replying to all of those, it can get a little time consuming, or I'm obviously not very organized and structured anymore. So I'll see you guys in the next video in a couple of days. Alright, peace out. Bye bye.